Hey guys, it's Alexander Creek, Astrologer and Intuitive. Welcome to this week's video. We're going to be talking about the astrology of the new moon in Gemini on May 26th. A really nice new moon. Really good for new beginnings. It just has really good energy overall. We're going to be talking about Saturn, the planet of boundaries, limitations, order, and structure, moving into the sign of Aries, which is a really big deal as well, happening on May 25th. And a little bit about, little astrological kind of odds and ends in between there. If you're just joining me for the first time and you're liking what you're seeing, make sure you hit that like button, the subscribe button as well, and make sure to subscribe to notifications so you don't miss a video. And I am a professional astrologer, so if you're wanting a deeper look for your unique birth chart, I do birth chart readings and year ahead readings as well, and I'm also a psychic medium. So if you're wanting like a little bit of a different take, guidance for your life and all that kind of stuff, head to my website, dogstaroracle.com, dogstaroracle.com. All the links for that are going to be in the information under the video, or if you're listening to the audio only version on the podcast, it's going to be in the show notes. So let's get started talking about this astrological weather. Okay, now that the little introduction's out of the way, let's talk about an aspect with Mercury and Uranus, and actually a little recap from the last video I did, because we talked about in my last video, I think it was about the full moon, or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but it was the last video before this one. And I talked about some energy that was happening on like the weekend of May 17th, May 18th. And that specifically was the Sun in Taurus conjunct Uranus, the planet of surprises, disruptions, and at the same time, there was an aspect between Mercury, the planet of communication, logistics, that was in a challenging square to Mars, the planet of weapons, war, aggression, and heat and passion. So I was looking for news headlines that weekend because sometimes when I talk about an aspect in astrology that's happening in the sky, oftentimes news headlines are going to reflect that because we don't always feel these aspects personally. We might be like, if there's like a challenging kind of configuration of planets in the sky, we might feel that energy, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to manifest in our personal lives in a meaningful way. It really depends on how your birth chart is set up. The Sun Uranus conjunction, I think, was about 26 degrees of Taurus. So if you have like 26 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, or Scorpio, those are you are more likely to kind of feel that energy. And so I noticed over the weekend there was some stuff that happened over the weekend. There was some ship that crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge. Which is because I talked about with that energy, surprises, disruptions, but it's also very accident prone energy. It's also was very kind of argumentative energy as well, just like a really tense, intense energy. So a ship crashing into the Brooklyn Bridge is very kind of Sun Uranus. It's also Saturn in Pisces, because Saturn has been at the last degree of Pisces, Pisces being the ocean. We had unfortunately a fertility clinic bombing in Palm Springs as well. And I'm not saying that astrology like makes people do things. I just feel personally like the stars kind of mirror sort of what's going on down Earth. So there was that happened. And then also, I think most notably, former President Biden suddenly dropping the news that he has an aggressive form of prostate cancer. And Joe Biden has his son, and his chart is 27 Scorpio. So that's a degree, that's almost an exact opposition of that 26 degrees of Taurus. And by the way, he has Sagittarius rising. That sudden news, that Sun Uranus configuration, that Sun Uranus conjunction fell in his sixth house of health, because Taurus would be his sixth house that often has to do with bodily illness. So I thought that was because I remember when that news dropped, I was like, wait, isn't he late Scorpio? That would kind of fit exactly. So, and also, there was that Mercury Mars thing, which was hitting his chart at the same time too, which kind of added to that kind of sudden sort of news dropping. I also knew I was talking to this guy, and he was like, yeah, my car broke down over the weekend, and I was like, can I like look at your birth information? Because we're like flirting, but I also wanted to know like what his rising sign was and everything. And he had Mercury and the sun right within that degree range in Taurus. And Mercury can often rule communication, logistics, and also forms of travel. So I was like, hey, that's a classic Uranus conjunction. Like, hopefully, like, and I was like, hey, babe, like the worst has passed in this, but that was a very kind of classic. That was a classic sort of con- configuration of the planets. So okay, so let's go ahead. I just wanted to recap that because like sometimes I get on here and say stuff and I don't, and I wanted to really kind of bring the receipts this time. So hopefully everyone's okay after the kind of the choppy astrology of last weekend. And if you did feel like you were affected somehow, maybe leave me a comment below and let me know kind of how your weekend went. So let's talk about the astrology coming up. So I did want to mention one aspect before we talk about Saturn and Aries and the new moon. So on May 24th, we're going to have a conjunction of Mercury in Taurus to Uranus. Um, this is going to have some kind of echoes of this last weekend's astrology that I talked about. I think maybe less. Let me actually just take a peek here really quick. When is okay? So there's an aspect of Mercury, and so we have a Mercury Uranus conjunction. So we have a conjunction of Mercury, again, planet of communication, logistics, like the mind, travel, with Uranus, again, that planet of surprises, of disruptions, but also breakthroughs. And I also think kind of like sudden insights. So this is happening at a similar degree. This is happening about 27 degrees of Taurus. So it's going to be in that same part of your chart where we had that Sun Uranus conjunction, the weekend of the 18th. I do feel like this will be less disruptive because we don't really have, because the reason why last weekend was so like intense was because we had this Mercury Mars square. That aspect has separated by the time this aspect happens. So we have Mercury meeting up with Uranus in the sky as Mercury kind of finishes up its journey through Taurus. This may just this day, this energy around this day could just be like some sort of surprising information. Um, like generally like thinking and like mentally oriented activities are going to feel sped up. It's going to kind of feel like we might kind of all be like sipping like a little bit more caffeine, a very kind of very kind of up tempo energy. This is also can be kind of more nervous kind of energy. I would also say like if Mercury kind of, it's sort of like our plans and like our plans for our day. This just might, you might want to kind of prepare maybe for like a possible like interruption or having to kind of pivot a little bit. I would also say, so like there can just be a little bit of an erratic energy to that day. And that is, again, it's going to be May 24th. So that's going to be that Saturday, which is coming up in just a couple days. I really got to upload this video. And so yeah, just kind of keep an eye out for that. Again, it's going to kind of give you though, like it may give you there's some positives to it because it can give you a lot of like ingenuity. It can give you energy around inspiration, sudden breakthroughs, like seeing things in like a very different light. And again, it's going to be in the Taurus part of your chart. So wherever you have Taurus in your natal chart, for example, Scorpio rising would have Taurus in their partnership sector, would have a Leo rising would have Taurus in their career sector. But just generally, I don't see that energy as a super huge deal, but it can kind of just echo some of that kind of erratic energy we've been feeling in that Taurus part of our charts. I would also again pay attention to news headlines because it is possible that like some sudden kind of headlines would drop around some sudden kind of out of nowhere news kind of, it's more of a potential for that to drop at that point. So more importantly, I just want to get that out of the way because that is kind of a bigger aspect. Let's talk about Saturn going into Aries. So the very next day, May 25th, Saturn, the planet of, again, rules, boundaries, order, structure, limitation, is going into a new sign. It has been in Pisces since March 2023, if I am correct here. And I think it went in. I think it peaked. I think it went into Pisces a little bit before that, and then it retrograded. But it's going to be in Aries from May 25th until September 1st of this year. So it's a bit of a preview. and it's gonna go into to Aries until September 1st, and then it is going to backtrack into Pisces until February 2026, where it will then kind of be in Aries for the next couple years. So if you are born between April 1996 and February 1999, you will be beginning your Saturn return when Saturn goes into Aries, because your Saturn return does happen like at the exact degrees when Saturn, like when Saturn in the sky comes to the point that Saturn was when you were born by degree, that's your Saturn return, but also when it's in there by sign. So for example, I have Saturn, I think at 12 degrees of Capricorn. So when Saturn was at 12 degrees of Capricorn in, I think it was, God, what year was that? 2019. I would have had my exact Saturn return around that degree of when it was in Capricorn, but also the whole time it was in Capricorn would be considered my Saturn return. And again, Saturn return is very much kind of when you become an adult, when you become very kind of aware of like the lessons that sort of Saturn kind of wants you to learn. And really eventful things in your life tend to happen around your Saturn return, especially connected to the parts of your chart that are ruled by Saturn. So the parts of your chart that are connected to Capricorn and Aquarius. For me, my Saturn return, I have Saturn in the third house, and it also rules my fourth house of family. And when I was, around 29 years old, which is basically when you kind of have your Saturn return, I just really started to take myself a lot more seriously, like with my career and with my business. I ended up setting up like a local office and started seeing local clients and started really doing readings professionally. Like I was doing readings before that, but I was kind of like not taking it super seriously, and I just felt this pressure to like take my life more seriously and taking me more seriously. So third house is local. That's local clients. It can also have to do with like counseling, and I started to like teach things locally, and that's very third house, is sort of like local community and that kind of thing as well. And then I also moved into like an apartment by myself too, and Saturn rules in my fourth house of home. So my Saturn return was actually pretty positive. So if you're wondering like, oh my God, it's going to be scary, it's like, doesn't have to be scary. There is some degree of like shit, when your Saturn return is happening, but it's not always negative. It can be very, very, very positive. Like there is some measure of work that is to be done, some things that you have to learn. But at the end of it, I was like, I was in a much better place than when I began my Saturn return. So if you are age 58, 59, you may also be starting your second Saturn return, because it is likely that you have Saturn and Aries in your chart. Both my dad and my stepmom are going to be starting their second Saturn return as well. I wish I had my dad's birth time. I don't, but I know in my stepmom's chart, Aries is her career sector, and so I'm anticipating that she's going to be going through some pretty significant career changes. But for the collective, it's really, really interesting because Saturn right now is hanging out at this final degree of Pisces. 29 degrees in astrology is considered the anaretic degree. And it's a really, really, really important degree. Completion, finality. It's like these sort of final lessons that we're getting from Saturn and Pisces we are kind of feeling right now. But also 29 Pisces is the final degree of the zodiac. 0 Aries is the beginning and 29 Pisces is the end. So there is some significant endings that we are going through in our world as a collective. You may feel, frankly, I've been kind of feeling a sense of dread because Saturn can rule fears and anxieties. And it's like we're hovering on the edge of something, of some new thing that is coming or some sort of new era that we are launching into. And it's like Saturn is kind of edging us a little bit. I'm like, can you just fucking go into Aries now? I want to know what it's about. I'm sick of Saturn. I'm sick of Saturn in Pisces. So we're going into a new era for the collective, and Aries as a sign is about leadership, pioneering, just doing things for the sake of, I want to because I feel driven to right now. Let's go for it. Aries is the warrior. It is bravely charging into battle. It is also, because it is ruled by Mars, the planet of war, heat, and passion. Aries is the innovator, and it's about doing things first and being the first to do something. It is the first sign of the zodiac, after all, and has a lot to do with kind of like creation. And if we think about Saturn restricts, it limits. It's a planet of lessons and karma, we could say. Saturn traditionally actually is challenged in the sign of Aries because that is a sign of its fall. Where Aries is like, I want it now, let's go now. Aries can be kind of impulsive. Saturn kind of says, wait, like, are you sure you're ready? Are you sure? I think you need to prepare like a little bit more. So as a collective, I kind of see this as if Saturn is like where we're challenged, as a collective, we might be going into an era where the needs of the individual like may not outweigh the greater needs of the collective, or like I think a better way to put that, like blindly advocating and doing what we want and fulfilling our own wants and desires without considering others, can be a source of great difficulty and great lessons. And if you think about our, especially like our Western society, I think in the West we're going to go through, if you're not like aligned to community and taking care of others and people as a whole, if you just sort of think about yourself and your own needs, this can be a very challenging time. And I think in our country, like the West in general, like capitalism can only go so far. Like we need to be sort of taking care of people as a community and thinking about like the needs of all humanity. And so I think there's going to be lessons, for systems that sort of reward blind ambition and just sort of selfishness. That those systems are going to have a hard time, and individuals who don't get that yet are going to have a hard time with this energy, frankly. On a personal level, Saturn in Aries, its expression is going to be very different, kind of based on who you are and also your birth chart. So Saturn in Aries, I'm frankly, for me personally, I'm looking forward to it. Like yes, different lessons on a collective level, and new challenges, frankly, because Saturn is a malefic planet. Saturn is kind of cold. It's kind of punishing, and it's like it's sometimes it says, wait, you have to be patient. Wait, this isn't good enough. Go do it again. Saturn can be about delays and limitations and things like that. But on a personal level, depending kind of where it falls in your chart. And by the way, if you want a horoscope for your sign for Saturn in the Aries, please check out my May 2025 horoscope. I do horoscopes for all the rising signs for Saturn in Aries, and I'm not going to repeat it here, but I do want to go more into detail about what it means for the collective. I will leave a link for that in the show notes, or in the notes on YouTube. So you may feel driven to like carve out more independence and agency, depending on kind of where Saturn falls in your chart. For example, if you have Saturn in Aries, so if you have Saturn if Aries is your 10th house, Saturn going into your 10th house may have a lot to do with like career things for you, like working hard to be a leader, or working hard to kind of climb the ladder or be on top, or working to create more agency and independence, within your career. It also can represent some challenges too in career area, because I'm not going to lie to you and say that Saturn is just like is all roses, because that is not astrology. Um, but generally, Saturn in Aries, like you may feel like you want to call the shots more, right? And again, this is sort of very dependent on what is going on in your chart and kind of what area Saturn is falling in, and also what planets it is aspecting in your birth chart. So very, very interesting, very different energy than Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces feels like it's very much like we've sort of been adrift. We've sort of been in between. Pisces is a very adaptable, kind of flowy, mutable sign. It's a water sign. I think there's been a lot of lessons around addiction with Saturn in Pisces, or disillusionment, or victimhood with Saturn in Pisces, or like escapism, and how we can like escape with drugs or alcohol or technology or social media, and not really kind of like own kind of what's going on. Saturn in Pisces is going to be a very much more kind of interface energy. Also, we have Neptune, the planet of spirituality and higher consciousness, the planet that sort of is like about merging with the divine. That went into Aries as well. So that's right at the beginning of Aries. So when Saturn goes into Aries, it's going to be hanging out with Neptune, and this is a very big deal. We're actually going to get some exact conjunctions between Saturn and Neptune. The first one happening August of this year. And that's a really interesting energy. I'm not exactly sure even what to make of it yet, but kind of here's what I came up with. So if Saturn equals structure and equals rules, Neptune is like merging with the divine and also like dissolves what it touches materially. So I'm like, okay. So this is sort of like a dissolution of our material world, or a dissolution of various world structures and rules, and signals, I think, a rebirth of sorts for our world. Especially because this conjunction falls at the beginning of the zodiac, at about 1 degree of Aries. It's like there's some big new rebirth energy happening. But before that rebirth happens, there is going to be a disillusion, or a fall of some kind, or even, like some kind of death. Because Saturn was the original planet that did rule death. To give you an example of that, um, we had another Saturn conjunction in 1989, my birth year. So I have this aspect in my chart. And if you were born around 89, 1990, you have this aspect in your birth chart. We had a Saturn Neptune conjunction in Capricorn, and that coincided with what? In November 1989, I believe it was November 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, and a huge moment in global history, in it just changed so much about geopolitics. So if you think about that kind of symbolism, like that wall falling, these structures kind of being disillusioned, and I think we can kind of see that start to happen now. I mean, we're in such this 2025 feels like such a year, and we're in sort of a flux energy, and like this really really big transition. So that will be interesting to see. And I believe it was Austin Coppock on the astrology podcast mentioned that Saturn Neptune conjunctions or aspects have a lot to do with like Russian history. So we'll we'll probably see some significant things going on with like Russia. And like if you pay attention to politics of any kind, that would be kind of interesting to witness. So yeah, really really interesting energy with Saturn going into Aries. It's going to feel like, I think, kind of like an big energetic shift. If you're sensitive to energy, Saturn just ingressing into that sign for those few months is going to feel really really interesting. So again, if you want more insight on Saturn and Aries for your sign, check out my May video there, and we'll talk more about this energy as we move through this year. So let's talk about the new moon in Gemini. This energy is happening on the very next day. So we have Saturn in Aries, and then the new moon in Gemini. This energy is really really lovely. We love her. So um, this new moon happens about 6 degrees of Gemini, and it happens on Monday evening. I think about, let's look, I think it was like 9 p.m. Yeah, let's just say late in the day, May 26th. That Monday evening. So this is a very auspicious, very fortunate new moon energy. Very good energy to plant seeds for new beginnings, to manifest with. Gemini is a very buzzy, it's very social, it's a very light energy. Gemini is a very social sign, so this supports, any kind of socialization, like light socialization, sort of like Gemini is like the butterfly that goes from like thing to thing and people and person to person, and just like it's because air signs do tend to be more social. This is also a very mental, or communication sort of oriented new moon. So this new moon supports any kind of information gathering, communication, organization, logistics, and planning. This is because, and by the way, this new moon does happen around 6 degrees of Gemini. So if you have 6 degrees of Gemini or the mutable signs, you will feel this energy. By mutable signs, I mean Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, and Gemini. Why is this new moon so fortunate? Well, number one, it is ruled by Mercury in Gemini, and Mercury rules the sign of Gemini. This new moon being ruled by, because when we look at a new moon or a full moon, we always look at the planet ruling that, look at what sign it falls in and what it's doing in the sky. So Mercury rules the sign of Gemini. It's one of its home signs. The other home sign is Virgo. And so there's a very steady energy to this new moon with whatever maybe initiative or new venture you are planning, or whatever sort of new things are coming in, or whatever kind of reset and new energies coming in. There's a really kind of more positive kind of quality to it. So good for any new beginning. You can definitely like plant a seed or even do like manifestation work if you are into that. So like a little my witchy friend Tina would say, like do like a little like you could do like a little hocus pocus, you know, or some kind of manifestation work if you are feeling it. Particularly with communication projects, with things like travel, or but also any like really kind of anything you want, like whatever you are feeling called to, um, especially especially if it's especially if it's tied to like the Gemini part of your birth chart, which we'll talk about in this new moon horoscope for your sign. Like for Scorpio rising, like for me, Gemini is my eighth house, so that's gonna be like credit cards, loans, inheritance, taxes, like getting stuff going with other people's money. Might be like a good time to like apply for like a loan or something. Um, so another reason that this new moon is so positive is because it is co-present with Jupiter in Gemini. So it's pretty far apart degree wise, but it's still sitting in like the same house or like the same sign as Jupiter. And Jupiter is a planet of expansion, prosperity, and good fortune. So it just kind of gives this expansive, optimistic little wink blessing energy to this new moon. And also, this is sort of like a little goodbye kiss to Jupiter and Gemini because Jupiter actually goes into Cancer on June 10th. Another really big shift that we're happening this year, and Jupiter's going to be in Cancer for about 13 months, and that's going to be a really, really, really beautiful blessing for us. And the for the Cancer part of your chart as well as the part of your chart ruled by Jupiter. So I'm really excited to talk about that in your June horoscope. So make sure that you're subscribed, you have those notifications on, so we can talk about that because I'll be dropping that next week. Um, so we're kind of saying goodbye to Jupiter and Gemini. So with this new moon, you really want to kind of think about maybe what blessings or expansion you've experienced in the Gemini part of your chart. I will say Jupiter and Gemini this year has been pretty challenged because it was square Saturn the whole time. So, a square being a dynamic, challenging aspect, Saturn being limitation and restriction. So there's been this expansion part of your Gemini chart, but also maybe some like feelings of like restriction with Jupiter and Gemini as well. So I would also say since it's Gemini, you may be starting multiple things, or there's multiple things going on, or you're just very, very busy. And let me mention this too. I want to mention when Mercury goes into Gemini, because I did not mention exactly when that is. So Mercury goes into Gemini the day before on the 25th. And Mercury and Gemini, we like generally when planets are in their own sign. So for the next couple weeks with Mercury and Gemini, things again, information gathering, communication, things involving the mind and travel just tend to flow a lot more smoothly. I'm going to give you a couple other dates as well to watch. There's a Mercury Cazimi. So when Mercury is in the heart of the sun on May 29th, May 30th, that's really, really good for it. Like it allows us to sort of connect to the divine for inspiration, for aha moments, for moments of these sort of divine, sudden insight and understanding. And it's like just really, it's like a time I think when our minds are very clear. We're able to kind of see through, to see through the forest, and we have like just like a very clear vision of kind of where we're going. So like a lot of the days around this new moon, it's not just the day of the new moon, but a lot of the days around it really good for this Gemini energy that I was speaking about. So let's talk about what that means for your sign. And again, I'm talking specifically about your rising sign. So listen to that first, your rising or your ascendant. And then if you want your sun or your moon, especially if you know you're born at night, listen to the moon. If you know you're born during the daytime, I would listen to the sun. But I would say rising sign first. So let's go ahead and talk about that. By the way, and of course we're going to be going in order of the zodiac. So Aries is first, last Pisces, and then you can always jump right to your sign by clicking on the chapters on YouTube or looking at the timestamps in the show notes. So let me go ahead and share my screen. If you're on YouTube, you can see the chart, which I always like doing because I think it's cool as hell. And I'm a very visual person. um, okay, so for Aries rising, the new moon is going to be falling in your third house. So very classic Gemini energy for you. Good for any kind of communication projects, to learn something new. You might be planning like a little. This might be good energy to travel under. I'm not saying foreign travel or long distance, but something more local or more of like a quick trip. It just feels like a very all of your kind of errands and busy kind of energy, there's just extra like luck and blessing to it. There could be opportunities like involving siblings or like your kind of like community members. But any correspondence that you're doing, any kind of writing project, any this might be a time that you're starting like that you're learning something new, or that if you have like a presentation that you have to sort of teach, any kind of communication thing that you have to do, or some kind of travel or logistics thing, this is a really, really excellent time for you to begin this energy under. Keep in mind that Saturn is going right, that Saturn actually went into your first house as well. So you're kind of going into some sort of new personal era. I think it's sort of like, I kind of get the feeling of like becoming like the authority of your own life, as well. Again, refer to the May 2025. I talk about that more, as far as Saturn kind of going through these signs. I do want to mention Jupiter is going to go into Cancer for you too in a couple weeks. So Jupiter's been expanding anything to do with travel, communication, learning, teaching, anything expanding the mind. It's going to go into your home sector. So if you're looking for home expansion, protecting the home, increasing anything like any of your assets connected to real estate, or bolstering anything connecting to family, that's going to be a really good transit for you, and it's going to be there for a year. But we'll talk about that more next month. For Taurus rising, the new moon is falling in your second house. Really good time if you're wanting to expand your money. The second house is your money, your cash flow, your assets, your movable assets. Also, kind of like it also can be like your values and your skills as well. But I would say good time if you're wanting to make more money. This could be a time in which you're bringing in some sort of secondary income, because Gemini is all about diversifying and multiplying. So it could be that you're looking at like diversifying your income, expanding your income in some way, starting something on the side. This could be like an idea or insight around around some sort of new income venture. It may be that you maybe want to take a look at like investments and stuff like that, and kind of figure out a way to like pay less and make more. Like this might be time to like shop around for like, like to like look at different insurance companies, and like kind of figure out like, am I paying more like than I should? Because this is very good energy just to help you kind of look at data and information and use that to your advantage. But definitely very positive for money. For Gemini rising, this new moon is in your sign. What a wonderful new moon. Happy birthday, my Gemini rising. Well, not happy birthday, but it's sort of like your birthday season if you have Gemini rising, even if you don't have your sun in Gemini. So Gemini rising, this new moon is in your first house. Um, this is a time to like just be kind of classically be you. Like this is a time to let yourself be curious about multiple things. This is a really, really good time for any kind of new beginning. You might feel like you just might feel like this sort of like positive kind of reset energy. This is a new beginning in your personal life. So things connected to your looks, to your body, to your identity, to how you kind of come across to others. It might be time to kind of play with that a little bit. This is really fortunate time to sort of begin some new venture, to have some kind of new beginning. And I do feel like you just may be feeling this in sort of like, you may be feeling this in multiple ways. Mercury is your ruling planet. It's in its own sign. I just feel like you're going to be kind of busy, but it feels like a really good busy. Like there's people to see, there's things to do, there's projects we're starting. It really feels like this is a time of the year where the energy really gets moving in a more positive direction. I'm also going to say this is positive for your home as well. So anything connected to home, to family, to real estate, to your parents, like anyone connected to anyone in your sort of home environment in your home, this is also positive for, because Mercury, which rules Gemini, also rules your fourth house of home, which is Virgo. Cancer rising. This new moon is in your 12th house. This is a more private kind of new moon for you. It's still, I would say, yeah, it's still social, but it may be with people that like it may be with like your sort of close circle, or it may be sort of more social gatherings kind of behind the scenes. It could be that you're starting something new with some kind of information or communication thing, more like behind the scenes, or there's a lot going on for you behind the scenes. It feels like your mind is very alert, but it just feels like there's something more private about it. This would be a time for you to To maybe get a little bit of rest, to get a little like bit of like retreat. This is kind of giving like I'm gonna go in the woods and journal, basically, because 12th house is sort of like places in nature, places where places that are like a little bit more isolated. But it's sort of like with under this new moon, it's sort of like let your mind wander a little bit and allow the universe to sort of communicate what it needs to communicate to you because there's something very spiritual about this new moon. But again, it's Gemini, so it's very sort of mentally oriented. So feels like communication, information, new things happening, but it's more behind the scenes for you. For Leo rising, this new moon is falling in your 11th house. So this is possibly a very social kind of new moon for you. It could be that you're having an opportunity that is connected to a friend, a social group, or or organization or group that you belong to. It could be a time that you're joining some sort of new group or joining with people or joining some sort of professional organization. Or that there's just a lot of buzzy energy in like like around like the social groups and the colleagues that you are a part of. The 11th house is considered a kind of like a more auspicious, a more positive place in the chart. So this also could be connected to your hopes, wishes, and goals for the future as well. So a really excellent time to kind of plan ahead because this is really good planning ahead new moon and looking at what am I wanting to achieve? What am I wanting to what am I wanting to kind of sort of like focus on in my future and how exactly am I going to get there? That's kind of what I see for you with this energy. Mercury does rule your second house of money as well. So if you're planning on like asking for a raise or looking how to to diversify your income, it's a good new moon for that as well. Virgo rising. The new moon is happening in your 10th house of career. It's a great time for you to be very publicly visible to anything connected to professional reputation and career. There could be new opportunities or new things happening for you in career, especially if you have to like give a presentation or give a speech or be in front of people. Really good time for you to do that. Really good networking time for you as well. Generally, things connected to your visible public reputation and career are going to be more favorable for you right now. So it's a really good time to kind of work for something in career, or to have some sort of, or again, this could just be speaking to some sort of new opportunity in your career or workspace. It could be that hey, maybe there's like a new boss or authority figure coming in. It's likely to be more like a positive thing for you. Because Virgo rising Mercury rules your first house of self and identity. This generally Mercury and Gemini over the next couple weeks is a positive for you. You're going to be able to communicate more clearly, to think clearly, to plan ahead. You're going to be very much on your A game under this new moon and under Mercury and Gemini. Libra rising. This new moon is falling in your ninth house. This is connected to like your big visions for the future, to your belief system, your spirituality, your connection to the divine. This is sort of like a conversation between you and the universe. It's a really good time for you to like do some divination, to pull some tarot cards, to talk to your spirit guides, to connect to meditation. And it's really also really good connecting to planning or travel, like to either planning for or traveling under this new moon. Anything connected to like long distance long distance travel, foreign travel. I kind of consider ninth house energy anywhere you get to like by a plane. That's like a couple hours. And this also could be a good time to study something new under, to take a class under. You might be doing something connected to higher education under this energy. Ninth house energy can also be something connected to like writing or publishing or media or teaching. So all of those ventures are going to be favored as well. So yeah, good new moon for that for you. Scorpio rising. This new moon falls in your eighth house. Like I kind of alluded to before, this is a good new moon for working with money. Connected to investments, loans, inheritances, taxes, getting all your paperwork in order, restructuring things, figuring things out, refinancing, applying for a loan, applying for a grant. It's very favorable energy. Any money that you're wanting access to that is not like technically yours, like that's not yours by paycheck, really favorable energy for just figuring that stuff out. Eighth house energy can also be more like deep and esoteric and have to do with like our sort of deeper emotions, and it can be very psychic energy. So this can be a good time to frankly kind of talk to your spirit guides, to spend a little bit of time in meditation. It could also help you like articulate your emotions or sort of like any kind of buried emotional energy. Mercury and Gemini is going to help you sort of articulate that or communicate that about that more. But yeah, That's what I got for you. So good for money. All right, Sagittarius rising. Let's see what we got for you. So let me share my screen again. Okay, so for you guys, the new moon is going to be in your seventh house of partnership and relationship. This is a new fortune opportunity, a nice reset, some sort of new beginning. Anything connected to it could be a romantic relationship, it could be like a new opportunity, a new person, or just kind of like a reset in your current relationship. It could also be some kind of business relationship or partnership. Keep in mind that you've had a lot of themes of collaboration and partnership and have had your partnership sector expands somewhat because of Jupiter's tour through that part of your chart since May of 2024. So you may want to think about like how that has kind of worked out for you. It could also just be it's like any of your one-on-one relationships. This is a very stimulating, very social energy for that part of your chart. Also, sometimes I think the seventh house can also just be like our formal contractual agreements as well. So if there is like a new contract or a new agreement, a new offer, chances are that it feels like fair and balanced and some sort of good opportunity. But this is a really this is definitely a breath of fresh air, somewhat lucky, maybe not even lucky, but just fortunate energy for you in your relationships. Also, when it comes to romantic relationships, given that Saturn has just moved into your fifth house of romance and creativity, you're really the energy for you around romantic relationships is going to be a lot different. You may be looking for something more serious. There may be a little bit of like, yeah, that sounds nice, but I'm waiting for the right person or like the right opportunity. Because Saturn can put limits on something, it can put delays in something, but in a way that like it might be you being like, uh, just kind of keep that in mind. Because I feel like you're going to be looking for soulful connections, but soulful connections that are going to be sustained for like a long period of time. You're going to be more interested in more serious kinds of things with Saturn moving into that part of your chart. Capricorn rising, the new moon is falling in your work sector, or excuse me, your sixth house. So that can be work, it can be health, anything along your day to day your sort of day-to-day grind, anything connected to work and health, and also pets. So this could be a new work opportunity, really good energy if you're looking for a new job. This is like a sign to go apply for things. Could be really helpful if you've already been searching for something. You can definitely bring some kind of stimulating social energy here. It's good energy just to network and like talk to people. Like if you're looking on LinkedIn, I would be like messaging recruiters or talking to people. If you're looking in person, I would be stopping in to talk to people directly. You want to open up those lines of communication. And definitely a new work opportunity can present itself if you're looking for a new gig or a new job or just kind of some refresh and reset in your current work environment. It can be a new kind of start in your work environment. It could be new coworkers, people that work for you. Something in your work environment could be changing and there could be just like a fresh reset energy. This is also good energy to bring in new information that could help you with your health routine. So anything with health and wellness and exercise and bodily health. If you've been like working through some kind of health issue, this could help you bring in some sort of new information that could be helpful to you and your health. Um, um, so my mind is what my mind went completely blank just now. So health and wellness, bodily stuff, taking care of yourself, really, really good energy for that. Also, I mean, for most of you, it's probably going to be work or health. For a couple of you, it might be something around like pets or animals, because that's also ruled by the sixth house, and I've seen that pop up quite a few times. And also keep in mind, too, that the sixth house is not the most glamorous place in the chart, but Jupiter has been moving through that part of your chart since May of last year. So maybe consider like, has my work increased? Have I had more opportunities through work? Or simply has my work life expanded? And you're like, please make it stop. Jupiter, stop, please. But Jupiter can be a protective and good influence in this part of your chart for health things. It's going to move on to the seventh house of partnership and relationships and really expand that for you from June 10th onward for about 13 months. So Jupiter in Cancer is going to be really, really nice for relationships for you. But new moon in the sixth house is going to be stimulating and really juicy and have a lot of optimistic, positive energy for work and health stuff for Capricorn rising. Aquarius rising, new moon in the fifth house. That's nice. So Aquarius rising, this is a new moon to have some fun with. Gemini is a very social energy. This is going to be very sort of socially stimulating energy. It can also stimulate you creatively because it's in your fifth house of creativity, children, romance, pleasure, hobbies, and recreation. So this could be a burst of creative energy. I want you to use this energy to create something or to like put work down for a minute, maybe put energy towards fun things, toward recreation. This could be something, this could be, some nice juicy energy yeah, I'm ready to like meet people and kind of go on a date or two. It could be something connected to that. It's not like super hot and heavy romantic energy, although there could be some of that. This is just more like buzzy, electric, social energy. It is lighting up your fifth house, which is romance, so it could definitely bring something like that in. But it feels like if you were to go on a date, it feels like it would at least be like good conversation, but yeah, put energy into your hobbies, your recreation. There's like a new start or a new opportunity or something just fun here. It also could be a new opportunity connected to a child as well, like a child in your life or something connected to children. But I do feel like this energy feels like a burst of creative energy for you. So Pisces rising, the new moon is in your fourth house of home and family. This is some sort of new opportunity, new beginning. This would be a good time if you're thinking about moving or wanting to purchase a new home or move or sell your home. This is really good energy to do some magic under, to set your intentions and to just to to do some magic connected to home and family and real estate matters. So if you're wanting to move or wanting to shift something on connected to your home environment, really good energy to sort of seed your intention to for anything connected to that. Also, it also could just be the energy of like having a like a social get together connected to your family, or having a social get together like in your home. It also could just like if you are wanting to develop something connected to home or connected to family, like this is really good information. This is really good energy for like gathering information and logistics and organization, getting like the paperwork that you need to like, I don't know, like for real estate financial matters or something connected or something to that effect. Also, I would be thinking too, how has Jupiter helped you expand, protect, bring a little prosperity and luck and expansion into your home and family kind of energy since May of last year, as Jupiter is going to be moving on to your fifth house. By the way, if you are capable of getting pregnant and you don't want to be careful with Jupiter going into your fifth house of children and pregnancy. That's going to be June 10th through July of 2026. So June 10th of this year and through July of 2026, because Jupiter in Cancer is very fertile energy. It's going into the part of your chart that is sex and pregnancy and romance and creating things. So just a warning to all my Pisces risings out there. If you're trying to get pregnant, Jupiter in Cancer is great for that. But just FYI. All right. So that is all she wrote for today. Let me stop sharing here. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for saying hi. Happy new moon. Let me know how you feel this energy in the comments. And remember, if you are looking for a deeper look into your chart or to connect with your spirit guides, reach out to me. I left my email in the show notes and in the notes for YouTube. Otherwise, you can visit me at docsororacle.com, and I'll see you next week for your June horoscopes. Talk to you all soon. Bye, guys.